Do you know what I love? This car right here. It's the Suzuki Swift Sport, a mild hatch that's about to finish up its time in Australia in the next 18 months. And in this review, I'm going to tell you why I think you should rush out and buy one of these if you're after a budget-friendly, fun little car to drive. I love it, and I love you as well for hitting subscribe and ringing the bell. And let's talk about the Swift Sport, shall we? The Swift Sport is the old generation model, and there is a new generation Suzuki Swift available right now. It's a mild hybrid model range, and it's super duper fuel efficient and heaps more affordable than this. And in fact, that gives me a good segue to the pricing for this Swift Sport, which is much higher than when it first launched a few years ago. When it came out, it was about $25,500 drive away for the manual and 27-ish for the auto. Now, it's $32,990 drive away for the manual and $34,990 drive away for the auto. So it is still the older version of the Swift, but the most expensive one. So it might not stack up for you in terms of what you're getting for your money, but there is still a heap of standard features that you might appreciate about this car. Things like LED headlights, LED daytime running lights, 17-inch alloy wheels with Continental tires. They're fantastic. You've also got keyless entry and push button start, and on the inside you get a 7-inch touchscreen media system with Apple CarPlay, Android Auto and SatNav. Now those smartphone mirroring technologies are plug-in only, not wireless, which is a little bit old school, but that's just how it is. You get a digital speedometer, you get climate control, and I reckon you're getting a fairly good amount of value for money, especially when it comes to the driving element of this car, which we'll touch on when we get to that point. But hey, I've got a few alternatives that you might want to consider compared to the Swift Sport. You know another car you could go and have a look at if you're looking for a Suzuki that's fun? The normal Suzuki Swift. It's still a fun little car, and it does have a new mild hybrid powertrain available. It costs a whole lot less than this, and it uses a lot less fuel than this as well. And it is still a pretty fun little car to drive, and it is still a nice package, I reckon. And you can check out my full detailed review by hitting the link in the description. And I reckon that it could be a really good car for you if you aren't necessarily sold on needing something that's super duper fun and super focused. But if you are, well, maybe you should go and check out the Volkswagen Polo GTI. And look, you're going to have to pay a fair bit more to get into a Polo GTI than you will a Swift Sport. You're looking maybe about $45,000 drive away. And that is a lot of money, I know, for a little car. That's a heap of cash, but it is a super hot hatch in a very small package, and I reckon it could be a fantastic option for you. And hey, if you're looking for something that maybe is a little bit bigger, a little bit more practical and thoughtful for your family, well, what about the Kia Cerato GT? It's in run out, it's about to finish up in Australia, and it comes with a zesty 1.6 litre turbo petrol. It starts around the 40 grand drive away mark, so it's only about 5 grand more than this, and it's a lot bigger car with a lot more practicality and usefulness as a result. So it could be a really good option for you, but what would you choose? Let me know in the comments. I still think this is one of the nicest looking little cars on the market, even in white, even with ugly yellow New South Wales plates on it. I reckon that it's still a pretty striking looking car. Good stance, great looking wheels, the body kit that really ties everything together, and even if it does have those silly rear door handles which are up a bit higher and out of the way of usability for a kid, I reckon they're pretty nice in terms of the design, and I do think that this is a better looking car than the new generation Swift is personally. Yes, at the back it is the Swift Sport, so it does get the Sport badge and also some sporty exhausts popping out the rear bumper there, which is kind of neat. And let's have a look in the boot, and you do get a pretty decent amount of space in the boot of this car. It's a deep space. It's not necessarily massive in terms of cargo capacity, but it is bigger than the previous version of the Swift was in the non-sport spec. So that's because this car doesn't come with a spare wheel, it just has a tire repair kit. You probably could fit a space saver spare in there if you needed to or wanted to. And on the side here, you do have a shopping bag hook and also a little light as well. So that's good to see. It's not necessarily super practical, but hey, it's a tiny little Suzuki Swift Sport. I reckon it's good enough. All right, so this is what the interior of the Swift Sport looks like. And yes, there is quite a bit of leery red design to this cabin. I don't necessarily love some of these elements on the dashboard or on the doors. Modern cars or newer cars have moved towards using lighting rather than flashy plastics to make things feel and look a little bit more special. And hey, there is a little bit of lighting around the edges of the instrument cluster, which does add some wow factor. You've got red lights around the rings of your odometer and also your tacho, and there's even one at the top there as well, so that's kind of neat. And there is also that digital screen in between the dials there, which is a nice thing to have, because I think originally this car didn't have a digital speedo when it came out, and it does have one now. And there's a few other things on the screen where you can keep an eye on your driving time, the actual time, and also your G-forces, which is kind of cool. Power and torque as well, acceleration and brake, and boost too. So look, it is obviously a pretty sporty little car, and it does have a few metrics to keep you entertained as well. The steering wheel itself is maybe a little bit big for the size of the car, but it does have all the controls in a logical position. You've got a volume trigger there and a mute button, helpfully. You've also got cruise control, and your Bluetooth controls are down there as well. You've got conventional stalks as well. There are a couple of buttons down here on the side too, including your lane keeping assistance button and your forward collision assistance button, and your parking sensors as well. If you want to turn any of those off, you can. And when it comes to this screen here, the 7-inch touchscreen media system, well, it's not the best thing in the world. There's no doubt about that. You do have a wired Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. It's been pretty good in my time with this car so far. I do think that the controls aren't fantastic though. You've got a volume trigger there. Sorry about the Backstreet Boys there. It's not on what I was listening to. Look, you want to see what I was listening to? I was listening to Scar-Lord, not the Backstreet Boys. That was radio that came through. Anyway, look, I think that this screen does take very little learning, and if it works, it's great. But sometimes when you plug in your phone to CarPlay, in my experience, it won't actually connect up to CarPlay, and it gets very frustrating. There's also a built-in sat-nav system if you need that or want to use that instead of the inbuilt maps on your phone or something like that. But look, I don't think that this is cutting edge. It might have been in 2017 or something, but it's not anymore. I think that it doesn't really matter though, because it is a relatively cheap car. And down here, you do have a climate control system. Yes, you've got a dial for your fan control and a dial for your temperature. It's just single zone climate control. And if you want to demist, you can do that pretty easily as well. You've got a recirc button there. No going through a screen to muck around with any of those settings either. And I bloody love that. Down below, you've got your USB port, an auxiliary port, and a 12 volt. And that's where I've been storing my phone, because that's sort of where it fits. There's a pair of cup holders there. You've got the standard looking gear shifter, and between the seats you don't get an armrest or a cupboard center console bin. You just get this bottle holder at the back, which is actually better for those in the back. You don't get heated seats, even though that's where those buttons would go if you did get them. Manual handbrake, that's for fun, I'm sure. And also you do get these sports seats, which are beautifully bolstered and super supportive and ridiculously comfortable and excellent, bloody excellent seats. I love them. And they also have the red stitch thing going on. So I reckon that from the fact that this is an older model, it is still pretty impressive in terms of the design and the usability of the cabin. There are some things that maybe could still be better though. There is no auto dimming rear vision mirror. It's still one of those flicky ones where you flick it to change it at night time. And yes, you do get a vanity mirror up here. It's not illuminated though, which I'm sure will piss off some people. You do get one on the other side though, so at least you've got two, which is good to see. Right, let's check out the back seat space, shall we? And see how comfortable it is. It is surprisingly spacious in the second row here. This seat is set for my driving position. I'm 6 foot tall. My knees aren't even touching the seat ahead, and I do have a decent amount of footroom as well. Even though that's set in a pretty low position for me to be comfortable, I can put my feet out underneath and have plenty of space. And also there's not a massive transmission tunnel intrusion here, so foot space is actually pretty good. If you've got 2 adults in the back, 3 across will be a bit of a squeeze. You've got a single map pocket, you've got just that cup holder or bottle holder down there, and there's no directional air vents in the back, which could be a bit rubbish for some, especially if you've got a child in the back. As you can see, yes, my child's seat is fitted in here. It does have ISOFIX points in the window seats and 3 top tethers as well. And there is no flip down armrest or cup holders in the middle seat there. So look, obviously it is a relatively affordable little car. It doesn't have many bells and whistles in the back, but it's comfortable enough, and there are bottle holders in the doors as well if you need them. So I reckon it's good enough, and surprisingly quite spacious for the size of the car. Remember, it's less than 4 meters long on the outside. This is bloody tiny, this car. Under the bonnet of the Suzuki Swift Sport is a 1.4 litre booster jet turbocharged 4-cylinder petrol engine. It doesn't have massive power and torque outputs, but it's the way that it uses its power that is most impressive about this little engine. It's got the choice of a 6-speed manual or a 6-speed automatic transmission, and it's front wheel drive only. And I reckon that it's very, very fun. In fact, I'm going to show you. Come on, let's go check it out. Honestly, there's one thing that shits me more than anything else about Suzukis. Sometimes you have to re-shut your door because it just is a little bit light, and so it might not necessarily close on the first try. That will get annoying if you aren't familiar with Suzukis. That is a very common trait across different models. Right, so before we set off, I just want to say that the gear selector, if you pull it all the way down and accidentally end up in M, it means that you'll be in manual mode and you'll be revving it and expecting it to upshift when it doesn't. And that is something that you will do on occasion, and it can get a little bit annoying. But look, it's not a deal breaker, not by any stretch of the imagination, not when the car drives like this does, because it drives really, really well. Obviously it's firm, you can see that through the camera yourself. It's not a soft riding car. It's not designed to be. It's designed to be sporty. That's why it's called a Swift Sport after all. So let's go see if it delivers on the promise or the mindset of being sporty to drive, even though it isn't super duper powerful. It doesn't have a huge engine. It doesn't have huge power and torque figures either, but it does have wow to it. Wow by way of the fact that it's just a really likable, easygoing, and zesty little powertrain. Like, let's go. It's also super duper fun in corners. It's got a really great chassis. It's super duper likable in terms of the steering and the ride and the balance and the control, and everything about it just makes you smile. This is an excellent little car to drive, and it's so fun. Even going, well, the speed limit like I am right now on this road, it is fun. More fun than you would expect from a Suzuki Swift, in my opinion. And look, I drove this car at the launch of it years ago and drove it on a racetrack, and it was actually really, really fun there too. The manual was fantastic as well. And in fact, I think the auto is an absolute corker too. All right, this is bumpy street, and this should give us a good indication of what the ride comfort is like. And yeah, unsurprisingly, it is a little on the bumpy side, as you might expect. It's certainly not punishing in terms of the ride comfort or discomfort. It is just noticeably firm, and it does have a very short wheelbase, remember, so it is a small car with not a whole lot of gap between the front and rear wheels. So as you would expect, it does have a bit of a jarring ride to it at times, but I don't think that it's punishing, and I don't think that it's uncomfortable. It's just intact and controlled feeling and firm but joyful. And joyful is the thing that I keep saying about this car. It is a joyful drive experience. One thing that is not joyful or enjoyable about it is the amount of tire raw intrusion into the cabin. On coarse chip roads, especially at freeway speed, it is bloody deafening inside this car. and you will find that you are turning up the volume on your podcast or whatever you're listening to on the radio or stereo. Yeah, it can be really frustrating, in fact, in terms of how loud it can be inside the cabin. But the engine's not that loud. It does have a bit of a raucous note to it at times, and it is just a bloody lovely engine, I reckon. So it's got a 6-speed automatic transmission, and yes, like I said, you can put it into manual mode and you can take matters into your own hands by using the paddle shifters on the steering wheel as well, and they are pretty good. I'm not saying that it's like a dual clutch automatic transmission in a Polo GTI in terms of the responsiveness and the gunshot feeling of just being able to choose the gear that you want and it doing it bang like that. It is still maybe just a little bit lacking in terms of outright amazing performance from that perspective. But again, it's not a super performance hatch. It's a warm hatch, a sporty hatch. It's a bloody ripper. I like it so much. And even in manual mode though, it will overrule you at times, which can be a bit frustrating, I would say. And look, I'm not doing a track drive or anything like that. I'm just driving around the suburb, and it's still so much fun. Just a lovely little thing to drive, a lovely thing to live with. And in fact, I can't think of much apart from the road noise that I don't like about the drive experience. It is just excellent. Okay, so is it efficient? Well, it is on paper. The official combined cycle fuel consumption figure for both the manual and the auto models is 6.1 litres per 100 Ks, which is good. For a car of this size, it is pretty good. In fact, it's pretty close to what you're getting for the new MG3 petrol model. So yeah, that's not bad at all, I would say. And if you can achieve that in real world driving, you're probably not exploring the potential of this powertrain as much as I have been. Now, you'll see what I saw on your screen now to give you an idea of what you might expect in the real world if you do have a bit of fun while you drive this car, because it does entice you to. It eggs you on. It's a great little fun car to drive, and you do have to pay a little bit of a price in terms of fuel consumption as a result of that. But I don't think that it's too thirsty for the car. I think it's actually just about right. The Swift Sport still has a 5-star ANCAP safety rating from 2017, and it will expire at the end of 2024, but it does still come as standard with heaps of standard safety technology and equipment, none of which is annoying, which is really fantastic. Things like autonomous emergency braking, there's adaptive cruise control, there's lane keeping assistance, blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic alert, you get rear parking sensors and a reversing camera as well. And there are 6 airbags fitted to this car, dual front, front side, and full length curtain. So sure, it doesn't have some of the other features that you might find in newer models, but I actually think that it's a very livable car when it comes to the safety technology implementation here. Suzuki Australia offers a 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty for its model range, which is pretty good. And when it comes to service intervals, it's every 12 months and 10,000 kilometres. So it is a little bit needier than some other models in terms of maintenance intervals, but it's still pretty decent in terms of the pricing. There's a 5-year service pricing plan. You'll see the average cost over that 5-year period on your screen now. And if you do service with Suzuki, you also get roadside assistance included for that 5-year period too. Nice. I bloody love it. I think it's a fantastic little car, a lot of fun, and if I needed something like this, I would rush out and buy one while I still could. This is awesome value for money, even if it is a bit more expensive than it used to be. It's so much fun, so tied down, and so joyful, this car. It really deserves to go out with a bang. And I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please hit subscribe and ring the bell to keep up to date with all of my reviews. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.